Okay, it's 4:00 and I call this September 18th Parks and Rec Commission board meeting to order. I'd like to remind the public, especially those listening at home, we're always welcoming comments from the public during our meetings. Standards of decorum posted at the door available and also on the city website. If anyone would like to speak during our meeting, go ahead and write your name on a card and make sure to give it to one of the staff members. And when it's your time to speak, we'll call you up to the lectern and you have 3 minutes to talk. First order, approval minutes from August 21st, 2025.
So moved. Second.
All our board members in favor say aye.
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 All those opposed, same sign. And it passes. Next, public forum for any item that's not on the agenda. Hearing none, we'll close public forum. Next up, deer hunting in Munn Woods and Emma McCarthy Lee Park.
Yeah. All right. Thanks, Nathan. So sorry to inundate your email boxes with all the material, but and we'll go through all of, well, I'm not going to go in detail through 100 and some pages, but we'll kind of highlight some of those things with the deer hunting in Munn Woods and McCarthy Lee Park. So really with all the information, there's a lot of information in that packet, but I really want to just remind the commission that really according to the ordinance for deer hunting, you know, the commission's role is just to approve or deny requests for additional park space to be used for hunting. So we did ask questions in regards to different methods, techniques, all those types of things. But again, according to the ordinance, that is responsibility of the Urban Deer Task Force. We do have Chief Huff with us. So if there's any questions about that, he can explain that a little bit more. So even though we have all that information, it'll be good information when he puts the task force together and look at maybe some other options. So again, just looking at do we allow hunting in Munn Woods and McCarthy Lee Park? Right. So with the urban deer hunt program, like it's mentioned, there is an ordinance. There is also some hunting rules that kind of really highlight how the program is done. Every year, about 75 permits is what the city can issue. And in the information, you know, the permits issued over the last 6 years average just under 19 permits. And with a number of deer harvested, 17 is the average. But first couple of years, 22 and 24, last 4 years, 15 is the most deer that have been harvested. So there are some other things that I'll just mention because they tie in a little bit later as we go through things. So all shots must be made from an elevated tree stand, needs to be a minimum of 8 feet off the ground. And the shots at a deer cannot be no more than 75 feet away or 25 yards. And then stands also must be located at least 85 feet from maintained roads, recreational trails, organized activity sites, and at least 20 feet from any residence or building. So one of the things, one of the maps that we did have in there, you can kind of see, so this is, if you just look up here, so Emma McCarthy Lee is pretty much this space. Munn Woods is most of this space right here. And they kind of connect with it. So all the brown or this kind of tannish area, all of that is covers within 200 feet from a building or a residence. The reddish, kind of this color, that's within 85 feet of a trail. And this darker color just means that trail and the distance from a housing kind of overlap each other. So that's why we have you see some little different colors here. All of this area, most of McCarthy Lee, this area down here is activity. It's open field. We have the pickleball and tennis courts. We have the main drive coming in and so on. Some more parking down here. So these shaded areas, kind of the darker hatched areas with the numbers in them, that's kind of the areas where hunting could be possible. All right. Now, there are a lot of small areas, less than, a tenth of an acre, less than an acre. Even like this area, it's more than an acre, but it's very long and very difficult, if you're going to be, shooting in certain directions and things of that sort, be very difficult. So that just gives you an idea based on the current rules that we have for hunting, deer hunting parks. That kind of gives you an idea of what space might be available. So we did do the survey, we talked about that, did the survey, sent it out to a whole bunch of people, 12,000 through our emails. We've also put it in our newsletter, also sent out a letter to physical addresses to people. If the boundaries were Lincoln Way on the west or on the south, Ontario on the north, Highland on the east, and North Dakota on the west. So we sent out about 1,500 letters to those individuals because we wanted to make sure that they got the information. And then there were other ways that we put it out there as well. But we did get 1,095 responses back. You saw those summarized in the information, in a couple of different attachments. And we also did get email and phone call messages as well. So those were included in your packet also. So with the survey, I'm not going to go through every thing, opportunity to read that. But 40% of the people do think the deer population with Ames is a concern. I'm not going to go through every one of those numbers. Respondents see deer in their neighborhood daily, 37%, weekly, 31%, monthly, 13%, rarely 14%, and so on. Respondents see deer in their yard weekly was 28%, daily 22%, rarely 19%. Feeding of deer is illegal. Chief would tell you that in Ames, but of the respondents, 2.7% said they do this regularly, with 1.4% of the respondents feeding deer occasionally with it. So that's I think an education piece that we could maybe do, but even with that, people will oblige and some will still do it. Almost 37% feel deer are a nuisance in their yard. Respondents have experienced damage to gardens, 33%, to landscaping, 32%, vehicle collisions, 10.5%, none, 20%, and so on. So we did ask questions about what related actions would be supported, and of that, urban deer hunting to bow hunting, 26.4% said they would be in favor. Public education on coexistence, 21%. Fencing or repellents, 15%. Immunocontraception, 12.6%. Relocation or hazing, 11%. And surgical sterilization, 6.5%. And I'll just make a note of those, and this information was in there as well. Some of these things, so the immunocontraception and the surgical sterilization, in talking with the DNR, with those, and it talked with Jim Pease, who used to work for the university, very knowledgeable on these things. With it is one, the DNR said that you would need to get the DNR director and the Natural Resources Commission would have to approve you doing something like that. But Jim Pease and Andy Kellner from the DNR, who spoke with, both of them said that they are not very effective. Those methods are not very effective. They're expensive, and really they're best utilized in confined spaces or confined herds, such as islands or areas that have high fences. You're talking 8 to 10 feet, and there's no way for people to get, or deer to get in and out. They're in, and they said in an open herd situation, they will not work. Was their comments. I know there was talking about with white buffalo, with professional hunters. That is another area where the Natural Resources Commission does have to approve that. Iowa City did use it at one time, and they had success. They liked it. When we talked with individuals from Iowa City, they have asked to do it again, and they have been denied, their request. And the reason for the DNR really wants to have robust urban bow hunting or deer hunts. That's what they're really shooting for with this. So that's just a kind of a side note. So there was this was a conversation that was had. So it was asked. I think Max even mentioned it too. It's like, well, how is this going to be weighted and stuff? So the numbers that I've been giving you have just been across the board. So like with this, 54% of people favor bow hunting as a method, 31% no, 13.5% unsure stuff. So what we did is we just broke it out. So with the dots that you'll see, the green dots are yes, the red dots are no, the yellow unsure, and then the gray is kind of a no opinion. So what we did is this is the same area where we sent out the letters to. So Lincoln Way to Ontario, Highland to North Dakota. So you can kind of see this is just do you support the use of bow hunting as a method of deer population management? When we added in adjacent residential properties, that 54% went down to just under 42%. No's went from 31% to just over 40%. And you can see that's a little bit of a change here as well in regards to some. And I think it would point out as well is if you look with McCarthy Lee, a lot of these adjacent property owners to the north, and when the deer hunting first came about, those were the people that were a lot of those people were against it as well. On the south side, you see some red, some green, some unsure. You start getting a little closer over to Munn Woods. Now you start seeing a lot more green with adjacent property owners with it. So again, just trying to give you as much information with some of the different things. So really with it, if you look at it and then as a summary, there are people for it. There are people against it. There are people that say yes in some situations. There are people that say no in some situations or no consistently. For the people that say yes, if you kind of summarized, it's a lot of the things that Max and others have been saying, damage to personal property. There's so many of them, potential vehicle deer collisions, just a lot of that, those types of comments. The people that are against, the hunting in the urban deer setting, safety is probably the number one concern that was brought up, some ethical concerns, and some people just don't think that we should be killing animals. So again, we mentioned this before, you're going to have people on both sides, and that's what makes the decision from commission all that much more difficult. I think maybe I'll just stop real quick. Chief, do you want to say anything in regards to the urban deer program or anything? I know you've had some conversation with or had reached out to Iowa City with their snipers, but do you have anything to add to what's already been said?
No, I think it's pretty clear that the current urban deer hunt, as you can see, doesn't harvest a lot of deer each year. 14, 15 out of the number that are out there is not a big number, and probably not making a very large dent in the issue. When we talked to Iowa City again, they were happy with the results. The DNR was not happy with the results. I think actually the DNR felt too many deer were harvested because they were paid by the deer. So imagine that. So we understand that there are people on both sides of this issue, and we certainly understand some folks that have had damage to their property and the frustration they have. We also understand the other side of it.
Yeah, thank you. So with some of the deer related issues, One of the things we did do, and we received this information from the chief, and we mapped it out. So this is 2023, and you can see where, well, whatever reports that the police got, this is where they happened. So to give you some idea, this is Highway 30. You got I-35 over here. You got Grand Avenue. You got the Skunk River coming through, Dayton Avenue over here. So kind of right in this area is where you got McCarthy Lee and Munn Woods. So, and when you look at this is 2024, and we'll say with this one, I think this is North Dakota. So again, Munn Woods right here. This is Ontario. And again, you get deer flowing this way and flowing this way in different directions. You're going to get some of that. And then so far this year, I think we had there were 77 collisions, deer vehicle collisions in 23. There were 73, I think, in 24. And so far, the estimate, because as we're getting into October, November, those are the biggest months. The deer are moving, the ruts, in full swing. So that's when we get to see a lot more accidents happening. Bucks are chasing the does. So it's estimated right now 65, based on averages from the last couple of years. And then when you look at it together, you'll see, and again, just for some reference, this is North Dakota, Ontario, Highland. So you can see, again, those kind of the Lincoln Way right through here. So those are kind of those surrounding streets that we used for the survey where we mailed the letters. Again, I talked about some of the techniques, not going to go through, any more of those with it. And again, that's according to the ordinance, the Urban Deer Task Force, they're the ones that suggest deer policy changes. And Chief, do you want to just talk about that Urban Deer Task Force, when they last met, when they're looking at maybe the next time?
Yeah, if I can just real quick clarify a few things on the accidents, just so you're fully understand. We do an accident report if there's over $1,500 damage or personal injury. So there could be accidents involving deer where it was under that threshold where we may not have that data. So just to be clear, that's usually not the case. $1,500 is almost nothing these days. If you've had even a scratch on your bumper, you probably found out how incredibly expensive it is to fix. But just to be clear, and one of the other things I did look at was the accidents that occurred on Highway 30 or I-35 by year. So I broke those out a little bit. And in 2023, about 35% of the accidents were Highway 30, I-35. I think it was about 33% in 24. And so far for 25, we're at about 36. So it's right around that. A third of the total is occurring on the highway or the interstate. But we obviously also get them within town. So the Urban Deer Task Force has not met since probably 2019 is my guess. It was before I was the chief. Really, COVID is what stopped the Urban Deer Task Force from continuing. And we owe a report to the city council in the next calendar year. So 2026 would be the 5-year report. So at that point, Urban Deer Task Force would be put together, look at all of these issues, potentially make recommendations, might make recommendations for change. But I just don't know yet. It's just been some time since they've met.
Yeah. So with that, go back to this map, and with it should mention if commission, there's several alternatives for commission to consider. Alternative 1 is recommend city council approve hunting, and what we're suggesting, staff is suggesting that only in this 5-acre area of Munn Woods. We're not suggesting this around McCarthy Lee, just with the number of activity and different things that are happening there. So really we're suggesting if council or commission wants to do this, it would just be that 5-acre area. Alternative 2 is recommend city council not approve hunting. And in fact, if you decide to not recommend hunting in these areas, it probably doesn't even go to city council because it wouldn't be taking any action. But I would have conversation with city manager on that and see if what he wanted to do. Also, one thing that we did not put in the report is something that Joshua and I just came to our attention today. So with Munn Woods, there is a conservation easement that we have with the Iowa Natural Heritage Foundation for that area. And in that easement, it does say prohibited activities, and hunting is a prohibited activity. However, we can petition if the grantor, which is us, if the grantee. Grantee. So if we show that there are damage things, all the things that Max has been saying, we can go to the Iowa Natural Heritage Foundation and ask for hunting to be allowed. And just a preliminary, real quickly, down and dirty question, they may approve that if we ask them. But I don't know, without us putting the information together and sending it to them, they could say yes, they could say no with it. But that is one additional piece, another hoop that. So if commission says yes, we want to do alternative 1, then we would solicit a waiver from the Iowa Natural Heritage Foundation. And if they grant that, then we would take it to city council for approval. So with that, any questions that anybody has?
I'll start us off. First off, this commission asked for data so we can make a data-driven decision, and I'm very impressed. This is beyond expectations of what we asked for, and I really think it covers what we wanted. Chief, thanks for your time being here today too. I appreciate it. I'll turn it over to the other commissioners then to start. No,
I have a question.
Yeah.
So will there be a sign posted by each access into that area of the park, letting people know, or?
Yes, we would do that.
Okay.
And just so people know that there's hunters in there.
Okay.
Yeah, and we'll say, one of the comments, I think maybe the last commission meeting, one of the individuals had indicated, well, could you close the park? From staff's perspective, very, very difficult to do that. We have construction going on up at Ada Hayden, and there are people continually walking through the construction area on the paths. There's no pavement, and they just disregard things. Joshua has had conversations with some people up there, and we just don't have the resources, nor would we put the resources to have somebody out there saying, no, you can't go in the park with that. So just want to throw that out there, but we would put signage
Okay.
up.
Keith, sorry, I might have missed this, but if we go ahead with hunting in that larger gray area, I
Yep.
can just envision that the deer population might increase in those other areas that we're not addressing. What do we do in that case?
And that's exactly what's happening right now. And I think Chief would confirm that as well, is that in some areas, the hunters go in and they have success, at the beginning, but then the deer find out that, hey, there's somebody in here that's a threat to me, and then they'll go elsewhere. So that's the thing with any area, even if you did the entire area to open it up for hunting, which is not what staff would suggest. But even if we did that, they will go elsewhere. And that's part of what happens with deer. They'll find other places to go if there's a threat. They'll go west, they'll go north, they'll go south, they'll go further into the neighborhoods. So that's a hard thing with this. We understand, the issues that the property owners are facing and the damage and so on. I haven't had deer issues in my yard, and I've got my wife will get mad at me because I'll probably say the wrong thing, but I think there may be some daylilies or daisies or something. And I tell you, right before those things are ready to bloom into flowers, boy, they just get munched off. Haven't had that issue before, but this year they're munching. So, and there's no way. I live right next to a school. There's no way there's going to be any hunting happening. So they will go elsewhere, Jeff. And I don't know what the answer to that is. And I don't know if you have anything to add, Chief.
Yeah, just the folks that do the bow hunting have said the same thing in the areas that it's allowed. They feel like there's fewer in those areas, and that's probably because they know it's not a safe area, and so they may move to areas that are safer for them. So you're kind of always in this whack-a-mole where we're chasing them around, and they'll move into areas where they can be a little safer. And so you're right, allowing hunting in a new area we may harvest a few, but it may actually push them in areas that are worse than they are now. It's hard to tell.
I know this is a problem, and I think you all know how I feel about it. But when I applied to be on the Parks and Rec Commission, I never thought we'd be talking about hunting in city parks. And I think a lot of the comments that I read on the hundreds and hundreds are, there are several people who are concerned about hunting and the safety in a city park. This is, surrounded by homes. It has walking trails all through. Even the 5 acres is surrounded by walking trails. And I think we have to think really long and hard about putting bow hunters in a city park in the middle of town. And I think, you can see with your data that there are a lot of people who have that same worry. And I don't know what the answer is, but I don't like the feeling of people using the park and having to worry about, is this a hunting day? Is it closed? Do I need to wear orange? This has been brought up in years past, right? That came out in the thing. And they told the person to wear orange on the way to work, cutting through to go to Iowa State. Think long and hard about this.
Chief, has the task force addressed this concern?
I'm not sure directly because, again, I have not even been a part of one of the meetings because it happened before me. I do know we've had no incidents, no accidents since we've been doing bow hunting in the city limits. The reason that some of the restrictions are there is for that safety aspect. That's why it has to be from a deer stand, so you're shooting down, less likely that there's going to be an incident that way. The distance, all of those things. Those are all put in place, to enhance the safety of everybody in the area. And I'm glad to say there haven't been any incidents, though.
Right.
And we did mention this last meeting as well. The other areas, if you look through the rules and everything, all of the areas that we have are areas where they aren't next to properties. They're not surrounded by residential areas. You've got the river for Innis Grove and Homewood. Hunter Youth Sport Complex is down at it's down at South End along the river. Even out at where our office is, Gateway Hills. It's kind of the southwest portion of that park. So it's across the creek, and you have Highway 30 on the south end. So again, there's there's areas where there's just not a lot of traffic with it. And I don't know if you've ever been out there, and one of the questions we ask, how often do you go out there? And you got a number of people that, hey, we're going out there daily, we're going out there weekly, and so on. So I don't know if any of you have been out there at Munn Woods or McCarthy Lee lately. Was it so?
And I went out Sunday before we saw this map. I ran from Emmett McCarthy Lee all the way through Munn Woods to Trail Ridge Road. So I actually went by that bordering. And without seeing this map, that was my experience, was everywhere you go in that middle corridor, you're seeing a house. And the trail is super established. And then I get up on the ridge line and come out on Trail Ridge Road. And there's actually a little tree there right on the border of what that 5 acres would be. And it has a little hollow, and somebody went there with their kid and put a little fairy house there with a little door and a little window. And so it's well used. Did you? No. But I was pretty surprised, like how there was families out. It was busy. It was very well used. And then you show this map, and it is exactly what my experience was going through the park too. So there's just not a lot of space. So that was my experience.
The other thing I'm going to say is, I live in Campus Town, and with that comes a lot of positive, but also comes a lot of negative. And that's a choice that I live in Campus Town. And if it gets bad enough, I have kids urinating in my yard. Football Saturdays are horrible. If it gets bad enough, I will move. And I'm not saying for people to move, but people live on that park for a reason. They've lived there, and there's no hunting in that park. And I don't think they moved there thinking they would ever bring hunting into the park that they live on. And, I feel bad for people who are losing their plants and have all these deer, and that's a choice that they're making, to live on a city park. It has woods, and you know what you're getting when you move onto those parks. And I'm not saying, that the deer population hasn't gotten over. I mean, we know that the answer is obviously not an easy one, or it would have been taken care of. So I understand that, but that's also a choice to live on a city park. And those people that have moved there, hunting wasn't an option when they moved there. So.
Well, I've certainly hiked that area for 15 years, periodically, a couple of times a year. Seen the nice trails and come and go. I know a couple of people that live there and talk about the deer all the time that are there, and have lost some shrubs. I've also had deer come in my backyard over near the Skunk River and eat vegetables and flowers. There's no question, it's a rough question about this. I would not want deer hunting near my place, but then we're very urban. I'm hoping there can be some suggestions and some ways to protect residential properties from deer, whether that might be some type of fencing, ultrasonics, something like that. And I'm sure that there will be deer hunting continued in the city and some areas, perhaps. But this is a rough one to see. It's rough for me to think of deer hunting in this area, even using archery. I just see too many people there. So that's where I'm coming from on this.
Keith, I'm kind of twofold on this because I'm one of the downstream recipients from this area. And I put a fence around my yard high enough that if they really want to get it, they're going to go over that fence no matter what. But they tend not to. They'd rather stay on the creek, and I'm down on the creek. But 5 acres is like shooting fish in a bucket. This isn't going to help anything. And Max, I'd love to say that opening that 5 acres up is going to stop something. I'd like to hear your thoughts. If we opened up 5 acres, is it really going to help you losing your plants?
Well, I'm happy to make some statements about the results you took.
And we'll open public forum in just a
Well,
moment here.
So think about that question, because I don't think 5 acres is going to do anything. I also don't believe that if we don't have a better, bigger overall urban population or urban plan for this, we're penning them in. I mean, we're building around the circles, and it just keeps getting, I'm seeing more every year. Then sometimes I can tell when they're building to the west of me, I see nothing, and they're probably heading up this way, up through the system. But I also sit back and think 5 acres isn't going to do much, and you're putting it right by trails. And I think about what our goal is with the park commission, and it's to provide a place for people to go. So what do we just do? We're taking more out. And in this area, you know, we've heard this at CIP things. This is an area people love. When we didn't have the bridge up further, we heard about it. What did we hear about it? So to make it less safe, I struggle a little bit with that. But I also understand that something needs to be done with the deer. Something needs to be done with rabbits, raccoons, all the other stuff that keeps coming in, because we're building in their home and pushing them down into the waterways. And that's where they're coming through. I don't think 5 acres is going to matter. I really would like to hear the city council get involved and talk about a little bit bigger view on how they're doing urban fringe and everything else. Because no matter what we're doing in the middle of the city, we could put that 5 acres in there and they're going to build out to the west, and it's going to push them back up through my house through there anyway. And I don't think anybody's going to take out a whole lot of deer. If we took out 20 across the city, you might get a couple more out of there. And I think I've heard they've had 10 or 15 in their yard. I've seen 10 or 15 in my yard. It's not going to do any good.
Okay. Ready to go forward? We'll open up public forum. Please state your name and address, and kindly keep your comments to 3 minutes. Thank you.
I'm Max Rothschild. I live at 511 Oliver Circle. I appreciate, Keith, you mentioning my name all the time. I have enough trouble in the city already. First, I want to thank Keith, you and your staff for collecting all the data. As a person who's trained in statistics, I think you did a reasonable job summarizing, but there's a few problems that if you showed some of the maps, I could point them out to you. Most of the anti-hunting people, which you had in red dots, exist in an area that wouldn't even allow hunting based on what your recommendation is. You have them all in the area which is not included in the 5 acres. And most of the people who, in fact, wish to see hunting are adjacent to 2 areas. If you go back to the last map, where you had the gray areas, please. This 5 acres and that 1 acre looks like the finger's pointing out. Those areas would, in fact, be good. They're far enough away from housing that, in fact, they're probably the safest. So if the commission decides to recommend the 5 acres, I hope they would recommend the others. Now, I want to address 2 comments that were made. So if I came to your house and I urinated, you call the police because there's regulations against that, and you have something on your side to protect your property. I don't have that, and neither do my neighbors. So we feel it's our right to have some protection. I suppose an alternative is I could send the city a bill for my plants. The other thing that was interesting is if you look at the deer collisions, it's very misleading from a statistical standpoint. Most of the collisions are where most of the cars are. There's an amazing number of collisions where you're only supposed to go 30 miles an hour in residential areas. So if you only concentrated on those areas, you would come to the conclusion that there's way more damage than there needs to be. On Highway 30, on Lincoln, or on some of the bigger highways, 35, of course there's more cars that travel, so there'll be more collisions. But if you adjust for the number of cars traveled, we have an enormous number of collisions in the neighborhoods. Those could be prevented, and they're expensive. Every average collision, at least for argument's sake, is the deductible, the raise in insurance rates. Those are all big things. So now to answer your question about 5 acres, when the hunting would occur, which is in the late fall, early winter, I see 20 deer on my backyard. My yard, so everybody knows where that is one of these on Oliver Circle. I'm not sure I can point it out with my arms aren't long enough, but I think it's right, go right there. That's mine. If the chief would allow me to put a hunter on my back deck, they could easily clear out 20 females on several periods of time. And then the final comment I would make is, everybody's worried about closing the park. Come over to my side of town. I haven't been able to drive there for weeks. Probably still won't for weeks. It's closed. Gee, public citizen, I learned to adapt to the fact that the city has closed my property. The same could be true of the parks. And if you want to be more effective at hunting, just name 3 weekends in which you'll have hunting for only a small set of hours. Number one, that limits liability problems. Number two, this idea that you're chasing the deer elsewhere. You hunt one weekend, you give a weekend off, you hunt the next weekend, they'll be back, I can assure you. I chase them off every day. I might get a day where they don't come on my property, but they're back again. I was gone for 10 days. It was unbelievable how many deer were eating on my property without me to chase them off. That's the front yard. I've given up on the back. You know, the city has regulations on fencing in the front. You just can't have it. So thank you for your time.
Max, thank you for your comments, and we'll close public forum. Also, I'd like to appreciate or give thanks to everyone that did their comments. I did read through every single one, and I appreciate everyone's voice in that, and I'm sure the other commissioners did too. It was an overwhelming response in a short amount of time, and it was very nice to read what people had to say about that. We'll go forward. If someone wants to make a motion before we start discussing that motion, now would be the time.
I move the adoption of alternative 1.
The motion is for hunting on the 5 acres, recommending city council to allow hunting on the 5 acres. Do we have a second? There is no second. Do I have another motion on the floor?
Motion for alternative 2.
Alternative 2 would be to not approve hunting for city council. Do I have a second for that motion?
I second.
We have a second. And discussion on that?
I don't feel comfortable approving hunting on that 5-acre area, given the traffic, given the safety concerns that a lot of folks raised in the survey, and also based on the numbers that we're seeing, the effectiveness of the program. I don't see that outweighing the safety concerns, and there must be some other option because this doesn't feel like it would take care of the problem. So that's, yeah, my 2 cents.
I also agree with that. I think there's 200 doe tags in Story County. We offer 75, and there's never been more than 22 ever taken for the city. It's not a lot. And I think the precedent set by the previous commission that there is no hunting allowed in Munn Woods probably is the right precedent. That's my 2 cents.
You know, Nathan,
I
I
agree.
kind of agree. I don't know that I know there might be deer in that area, but I don't know that you're going to get as many hunters. It's not as easy to get in there. Plus, how many are you going to set up in 5? I get back to the 5 acres. How many people are going to be wanting sitting next to each other in 5 acres?
Mm-hmm.
Because one guy takes a shot, you got blood on the ground, deer are going to be gone. And this is coming from a hunter. I mean, you scare them off, they don't smell blood. You kill them, they smell blood. That's what keeps them out. And that's why you move your tree stand. But I don't know that this is going to make a difference, the 5 acres. I would wish it did, but
Mm-hmm.
even you're not going to create a traffic jam there either. It's just not big enough.
Any other discussion? All those members in favor of approving alternative 2, not approving hunting to city council, say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, same sign.
Aye.
With 1 opposed, the motion passes. We're going to move on to number 5, capital improvement plan. Chief, thank you for your time.
Well, I would, just before the chief goes, I would say if there's any comments that the commission has, regarding, techniques or methods that the task force would need to tackle. Because a number of things that even were talked about here at the end, I think are going to have to be brought up through the task force. So I think this is an opportunity with the chief here. If there are any direction or comments that you'd want to give to him as he works through that, I think that would be a great opportunity.
So Chief, you will reconstitute the task force? Or are there standing members?
There are no members right now. They're appointed by, I believe, the city manager's office.
Yeah.
So we have to get that going again because we will owe the city council a report for next year. So we will put that group together. We've already been in discussions with the DNR about trying to get a count. They haven't done one for a while, I think. It's limited when they can do it because of the conditions that have to be present. You have to have snow on the ground, leaves off the trees, a lot of those things. But we've also been in some discussion. There's actually an Iowa State student who is proposing using drones to do deer counts. And so we might see if there's an opportunity to work with them to try and get some kind of number. I would say from your discussion, I don't disagree with anything that was said. We don't harvest enough deer to make much difference in the total number every year, no matter what. I'm not sure that 5 acres is going to change anything either. I understand the frustration by people. Generally, what eliminates the number is natural selection. So when there's more deer and winter comes, that tends to take care of the overpopulation issues. And as we build out, it generally does push them into areas that we don't want them to be. But it's extremely difficult to solve this problem because no one's got the right answer. There's been a lot of things that have been tried, not a lot of success that we're hearing from anywhere, just because of the nature of the beast. Try and get rid of rabbits, try and get rid of squirrels. It's all the same kind of thing. They're difficult to deal with. But I get the frustration of the property damage and those kind of things too. I wish we could figure out a way to be more successful in reducing that population to a better level.
When you all meet, excuse me for this kind of crazy question, but when you all meet, is it in an open session like this where folks can come and?
I think we would take comment, yeah. I think we've got to get the group back together. I've got to look back at what was done previously. So again, I don't have a lot of knowledge on that part of it to see, and we will definitely reach out to our partners too and ask who has done what and what does the success look like, or is there any success?
I just know we've had a lot of discussion on both sides of the house and the for and against, and some of the people that are against haven't been here and probably would like some type of a forum to be able to be heard as well.
Agreed.
And just, looking at the ordinance, just with the makeup of the thing. So there is, they're talking about a representative from Isaac Walton League, one or more representatives from neighborhood groups or associations, Story County Conservation Board, Ames Animal Control Office, Ames Police Department, Parks and Recreation Commission, the city's hunter coordinator. So those are some of the people that would be, or the groups where people would be brought from to serve on this task force. So be thinking about that too. If with a representative from the commission who might be interested in serving.
One of you will get that opportunity.
Janet's looking forward to it.
Really?
This is a tough one. I totally understand. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Chief.
You bet.
Okay, now we'll move forward. Capital improvement plan.
Yeah. So with this, and just a real brief, I'm not going to go through all these dates, just so you can kind of see. We are looking towards that November 17th is when staff have to have our CIP draft submitted to finance. So that's what we're trying to go to. Eventually in January the 20th, we will present that to city council, and there's a, number of things in there in between, but then February 10th, city council would finally approve the capital improvement plan. Just as a reminder, different budgeting funds, for operations, but with the CIP, and for those at home, capital improvement plan is what CIP stands for. There are donations and grants, shared funding, local option sales tax is a big portion of what we get. Parks and Recreation gets roughly $900,000 to $1 million every year to do things. And then with bigger projects, there are the GEO bonds as well. So just real quickly, you can kind of go through and see this is what's in the current plan. We did not put 25, 26 in there because those are projects that we're working on right now. But you will see, playground equipment for each year. We do have an overall plan where we place that equipment about every 20 years. ADA improvements, had the audit done. We're putting in $100,000 a year to do those improvements, make those changes. So you can kind of see a couple of these, projects. Just one, this is at North River Valley. That's Lincoln or 13th Street. Sorry, is on the south end of that picture. Have all of our soccer fields up there. Parking is tough. Here you just have that asphalt drive. They park on the grass. So we're looking at doing something, with this. And one of the things that we have talked about in the past is could we do some type of permeable parking? There are some grids that you can put in. You fill in with gravel. Grass grows. You can mow it, but it still gives you that harder surface for the vehicles. So that's one thing that we have been talking about for a while. And then the more Memorial Park Bridge. With that, we are finalizing. We're getting close to finalizing the easements with the university. So we're hoping to take that to council coming up here in probably October. And then it would go to Board of Regents in probably February, I think, is the time frame that we're looking at. So 27, 28, you see a couple of the canoe kayak accesses. Again, you see some things that are in there. We do have in here parking lot improvements, just earmarking some funds because we do have a number of parking lots that we're going to have to start doing some things. And some of them, Ada Hayden, that north parking lot, 20, 21 years old. That's going to take some money to replace that. So we're going to be working on getting some more figures there. But a couple of things, the Brookside, we're not. It's not replacing those baseball field light poles. We're just saying taking them down. They're old. They aren't working. We haven't had them working. Or we haven't used them at all. So we're looking at just taking them down before they become a safety issue. And in fact, this is maybe a conversation for another day. One of the things, this field, we put a lot of resources into it. Gets used maybe a couple times a year. And there's a practice field, the practice infield beyond that. At some point, do we say, hey, is that the best use of our resources? Could we be doing other things in the park system? So we're just, Josh and I just had that conversation, recently. So we'll have more.
It gets used for practices, and then Ames High will use it for 3 or 4 dates in June for games, and that's it. And so that's why we're bringing that up. So just
All pickleball fields.
want to
I was gonna say, that's like-
All right, move on.
Do you do Park and Rec baseball there?
No,
You don't do.
no, we don't do a baseball program. We do a t-ball program.
Yeah, and you don't do it there.
No, it's at
No,
O'Neill Park.
We used to do it at Brookside, but there are too many years we flooded and things. We said, we got other resources. Let's just do it outside. We don't have to worry about that. The other thing, so this is, Jensen's Pond, what we call Jensen's Pond and the north end of Ada Hayden. So this is a project that I'd like to go in, dredge, do some cleanup. DNR has already said, they would do some stocking and really try to make more of a kid fishery, up there. So tough to keep guys like Joshua out of there, but he would definitely take his son up there to fish. So that's a project. 28, 29, and you can see, generally, again, we're talking that 900,000 to $1 million. When you start seeing fewer and fewer projects, that means that they're cost more. And renovate the restroom, War Memorial Park with that playground equipment. We've talked about combining, doing something neat, using the topography out there to have maybe an upper and a lower and have them connected some way. But we do have money in here for Miracle Park, start replacing the sections of surfacing, and then replacing light fixtures on the Furman deck. So just those are all the fixtures. Replace them with LED. They're much more energy efficient. Again, with some of these capital projects, looking at how can we reduce our operations, because we just don't know what's going to happen at the State House, and are we going to be able to continue to do everything that we're doing. Now 2930, there's a lot more projects, again, smaller, things. And with this one, just point out, with the Cottonwood, area that's by the Lowhead Dam. So again, we've kind of talked about this before. We have parking, shelter, playground, and anybody in the shelter and the playground have to go through the parking to get up here. We really like to kind of reverse that. Maybe put parking over here. We also have, some possibility with the old park shop. Once we can remove those buildings and get those out of there, that's also a possibility for some parking for that area as well. So as far as some immediate needs, we usually bring things to you. Skate park repairs that could be $10,000, $15,000, $20,000, to do some repairs there. We're not sure that we have enough funds for the War Memorial Bridge. And again, that's really going to be dependent on whether or not we get that REAP grant. So we have 300,000 in there right now, 200 for a REAP grant, 100 of city funding. And then Ontario Park, we want to be doing some things there. But again, we may look at the Gita Winokur money that we have, which is about 1.7 million. Could be a really nice chunk of money to start doing some things out there at Ontario Park. And then an ADA lift, we need to replace that for Furman. It's lasted a long time. We've had it for 15 plus years, but now's the time that we need to get a new one. And then also with that parking that mentioned earlier, we don't have a design. Probably we'll have to hire somebody. We don't have any money set aside for that. So those are some immediate needs, and we'll look at some different sources or different ways to maybe fund those, but it may be delaying a project or something as well. So some of the suggestions from this year, and again, in the packet, we have the emails and so on, but trail connection from Hunziker to Ada Hayden, that's something that we continue to work on. The city has been trying for many years to get easements along the Skunk River so we can make that connection from Lincoln Way to 16th Street. That hasn't happened. We're now looking at maybe a different route to make that connection. So we're continuing to work at that. We don't see this as a high priority. Homewood, hole number 4, with the rains this summer, a lot of that hillside sloughed off down onto the trail. So we're going to have to do some repairs. The last time we did that project, it was through Public Works. We'll look at doing that hopefully again. It's probably the biggest thing. You've seen it with all the comments. Some of you were at the the public input session, pickleball courts, pickleball courts, pickleball courts. With that, natural surface bike trails, that we had that brought up last year, brought up again this year. Fence in Roosevelt Park, kind of mentioned that. There are some people that want a fence. There's some people that don't want a fence. Typically, we do not do a fence, and I mentioned this at the public input, that if you took all of the perimeter of all of our parks and put all those miles together, it would be a very, very small percentage where we have a fence delineating property lines. And even we don't like fences generally. If we do it, it's generally for safety reasons, or a court, or a baseball field, softball field, stuff like that. The adding a lighted trail similar to High Trestle Trail, we had an individual came and talked to Courtney, Joshua, and I, gave a presentation. We basically said, you know what, it's a neat idea, but that a lighted trail does not show up in any long range plan that we have through the city, whether it's through Parks and Recreation, whether it's long range transportation plan, any of those, it just does not show up. And an individual been persistent. Would it be a cool thing? Sure. He just sent an email to the mayor and other staff recently about adding it on 6th Street with the work that's being done on 6th Street. But again, I responded with, again, we don't have the money for it. It's not in a plan. It's in a residential area. I'm not sure, just even what we were talking about. And we told them that, we'd have to talk to all of those neighbors. I don't know that the neighbors want a bunch of lights in their front yard and try to bring people into that neighborhood. So, and then somebody did have they were in favor of the War Memorial Park Bridge, but there were some concerns that they had. Those were highlighted in the thing. So really not a huge amount of comments this year, but then last several years there's been a number of things with it, and these have not made it into the plan, the capital improvement plan. So but we like to let people know that, hey, we're not going to just take your thoughts and throw them out after 1 year. And staff suggestions, we already talked about parking lot at Ada Hayden, Daly Park shelter roof, that is needing repair sometime in these 5 years. Now we do have a donation fund that will cover some of those costs, but won't cover all the costs. Ontario Park, which we've already talked about, more Memorial Park stream bank stabilization. That one, we usually work with Public Works. That's something that they do through their stormwater aspect. Court lighting, we have, old lighting, probably converted to LEDs at some point. Community Center Gymnasium curtain. Homewood, there's several things there that need to be addressed. Now with Homewood, some of those, again, we're looking at after last year, we're probably at about $1 million that fund balance. So we do have some that operational fund balance is pretty healthy. So we could do some of these and plug them in and use some of that money potentially. And then from an aquatic center, retaining wall, lighting, ice arena roof, there's a section that we need to get repaired. Anytime there's a downpour, water comes into the office, so we need to get that fixed. We had an energy audit done from our sustainability coordinator at a number of buildings, and one of the things, there are a number of things throughout our facilities, but at the Parks and Rec admin building, a new roof showing signs of wear, so probably need to do that at some point. And then some things with the auditorium, And then with the band shell. So I guess with all of that, what comments does commission have? Are there projects that excite you, don't excite you? You know, several of you were at the public input meeting. So thoughts?
I think your staff has always done a good job of, looking forward to the future, keeping this static enough that we can plan, but dynamic enough that we can change. And I think that's really important. We have a very good bike trail system. Obviously, you guys take care of Public Works does the path. That's my understanding, right?
They do some of the shared use paths, some of them through the park system, but some of the ones that are in the park system are, if they're in the parks, they're generally our responsibility unless they're kind of a commuter path.
Right.
Like through Brookside, it goes from 13th Street to 6th Street and then through Elwood Pasture and Stuart Smith. Public Works generally takes care of that one. So it's kind of a mix between the two of us.
And I probably hear multiple constituent comments yearly about connecting Lincoln Way down to the Hunziker Sports Complex. So we have a thoroughfare through there. And, I go from 13th Street to Lincoln Way on that path 3 or 4 times a week. And it's kind of like the road to nowhere, because I think it'd be used a lot more. It's a beautiful path, but it just ends on Lincoln Way. So I think that's one of those. I think if we built it, they would come, whether we use the oil field public access off to the west a little bit instead of going through the field. Maybe that would be something to work out or not. I don't know. But if it was there, I think it'd be used quite a bit.
So Public Works is actually working on that plan right now.
Oh,
They're having some little bit of difficulty getting easements from the property owner. So they're looking at moving this to the west.
perfect.
I don't know the status right now. It's just right now I think it's they're still in the trying to figure it out because there's going to be a pretty extensive bridge that's going to have to be installed. And so priority right now is getting Stuart Smith Trail completed, and then I think they're working on getting that plan. But it's going to cost a little bit more than what they expected. So
It's good to hear.
And I think one of the things with that too is they may be able to connect to the section that comes off of Duff, South Duff Avenue. So you could even get from River Valley along that Skunk River and then tie into Iowa Creek Trail
I think that'd be useful.
before they get over the river.
correct.
So there are a couple of things that they're working on.
Thanks.
Other thoughts, comments? Or should we just sprinkle the fairy dust and come back in October with a draft plan for you?
Well, I have spent a lot of time parked on North River Valley Park in that loop during youth soccer. And that's kind of nice because that shows our programs are successful, that it's getting full of people, because I'm sure that's a completely filled out program for those youth soccer that we offer. But yeah, obviously we need some parking.
Yep.
So,
One more comment about North River Valley Park, the bridge that goes over the Skunk into Carwoods. If we had a bike rack right there at that bridge at the parking lot, it might be a little less likely than that bikes and electric bikes would be going across and going on that dirt trail around the prairie and so forth. Because while it's not really signed prominently to not take bikes and such over there, people do all the time. And it would just be nice to give a subtle hint and a place for people to leave their bikes.
We can make that happen.
Pickleball courts were brought up a lot. Being the newest member on the commission, I'm not sure how much this has been discussed already. I know we have pickleball courts. Is there any consideration for expanding that? Expanding the options or any of the resurfacing that they mentioned here, some that are experiencing cracking, that sort of thing.
Yeah. Well, and right now we have there's no money set aside, for any of it. if we were going to do something, probably converting existing courts, would probably be better than building new courts. But we have not had a lot of conversation, about this. I did go by and I need to talk to my counterpart over at ISU. I did go by those dilapidated tennis courts and thinking, maybe that could be a public-public partnership. And you could get a lot of pickleball courts in that area. And that's the thing with, there's a lot of college students that go out to Emma McCarthy Lee Park. Their pickleball club goes out there to play. And a lot of students go out there to play. And now should mention too, that all of our tennis courts do have pickleball court lines on them. But what we hear a lot of times is, the net is not the right height, and so on, and that's a struggle that we hear all the time. So, yeah, but we'll take a look at that. And I did mention at the public input, and the one individual that was there, I told them, I said, I know you're not going to like this, but generally when we're going to do something, new stuff gets put into year 5. And if something's going to go in a year earlier than that, then something else has to be delayed. And that's always the tough part. So, yeah. All right. Any other?
I'm excited about the Moore Park Bridge.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's going to be awesome. And you did a really good job of answering questions at the meeting. There were several people there that were questioning and wondering about that bridge, and you did a really good job of explaining all that. And
Yeah.
that was a great thing.
Thank you.
That's going to be fun to have that bridge.
It will be.
All right, if there's no other comments, let's move forward. Park policy update.
Yeah, so sent this information and there's a couple of different things that we gave you. So we have chapter 19, and we kind of gave you a marked up copy, and with this, some of the stuff is just I'll call it housekeeping. There's some language that needs to be updated and some things that just are outdated. So we tried to do some of that. But a couple of things that, do want to, I guess, bring up with it. So one thing with the damaging plans, property and parks and recreation facilities, made a couple changes there, but we did add in foraging of edible plants is one of the things. And then we, as far as interfering with park structures, we really tried to take that whole thing, and it says specifically, putting picnic tables in the rivers or on top of buildings and things of that sort. Try to make it just a more general, statement. So I guess what I would do is any comments about either of those two things?
I have a
Like
comment.
or don't like?
Oh,
Go ahead.
I like that foraging has been included since that was something that was brought up in one of the public surveys.
Yep.
I do wonder though if it's something that should have a statement regarding liability, that it's you forage at your own risk. It's up to the individual to take on the liability of what they pick. Just something to consider.
Yeah, and I should say too, with all of this, we'll get your feedback, and then what we'll do is we'll take this to our city attorney and have them take a look, and so some of this stuff may get changed because that's what they look for
Sure.
too, which is good. Unlawful to operate motorized vehicle. We did add in other than authorized personnel, which obviously gives us an emergency personnel. And then we put some exceptions in there related to ADA compliance. And then with firearms, we can't have an ordinance that is more strict than what the state has, and they do allow firearms. So these are just our take on it, but we'll get the city attorney's feedback on it. Now, one thing you'll see when we get to the rules, we actually do put in a park rule of no firearms in parks or in recreational facilities, which the library already has a rule for that. So, bike riding, we just did a little add in of all types, so manual, electric, etc. Just change some things with the dogs. So we are right now. We do have no swimming, at Ada Hayden as a park rule. We're thinking changing that to an ordinance, recommending it as an ordinance, and not just in Ada Hayden, but no person shall swim in any body of water on city-owned property. So, be curious what feedback you have on that.
It's going to be really difficult. You're paddleboarding, you're off your paddleboard. Are you swimming? Are you not? Do you have to touch your boat? Are you swamping your canoe to practice how to swamp and pull off with your partner canoe? Is that swimming?
Yeah. We have never looked at that. Now, when Jax was renting paddleboards and so on, we asked them to educate people that you can't go out there on your paddleboard and be diving off and swimming around and things of that sort. If you fall off, you get back on. We realize people tip in kayaks, they tip in canoes, in some of those things. I think more so it's but making it an ordinance. We did have some situations in the last couple of years where I think we had a number of people just running off of the boat dock, jumping in, swimming around, and so on. If it's an ordinance, people can call police can come up and they can issue a citation if they want. We have had sometimes people, kind of going in and same thing, kind of wading, swimming, and stuff like that. Obviously, with the triathlon, with that, then it would just take council approval, to waive that, which I don't think council would have an issue with waiving that ordinance or the prohibition of it through enforcement. So
That was my question, Keith. To waive an ordinance, is it one hearing, 2 hearings?
it's just one.
Just one? Okay. So my question was a triathlon because generally it's been a pretty good process and
Yep.
they have all the safeguards, but then when it goes to city council, sometimes they have those weird rules about.
Yeah. With any time that you guys, the commission recommends the city to waive an ordinance or enforcement of an ordinance and so on, it just takes one meeting and then they do it. And I'm not thinking of any time where commission has recommended waiving an ordinance that they haven't done it. So again, I think the commission is very supportive of the triathlon. Council is very supportive of it. It just gives police an avenue. If we get a call, they can go out there and they can issue a citation with it. Has more teeth to it than the park rule. So any other? And then with the other ones, just some cleanup with the bait dumping, and then with the fishing from the bridge. We're just saying any bridge within the park system, not just at Ada Hayden. So was there anything based on all the information that we received that we missed that you guys can think of from an ordinance standpoint? We do have some park rules that we are suggesting. Janet, you were going to say
So
something?
we did decide to go with 10 mile per hour on the e-bikes.
Well, that we haven't gotten to.
Oh, well, sorry. I'm jumping ahead.
Yeah.
No, I think the ordinances are very in line with what we need for our community. You know, the foraging especially. You know, just yesterday I saw people taking walnuts. You see people with spring ginseng and you know, blackberries and morels. And I mean, people are doing it anyway, so we need to make it right. So that was really good.
I like the at-risk thing.
Maybe we're.
You pick it, you
Risk.
get, you deal with it.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So with, if you go to then the next document, which is the parks and we're saying parks and recreation policies. And again, this is not covering all of our policies. Each of our facilities has things, but we're trying to look at some of the bigger issues with it. So some of these ordinances are carried over because what we want to do with this document is we want to, whether it's an ordinance or it's a park rule, it's all in one document. People can find it all in one place. So one thing that we're looking at with the alcohol beverage use is actually adding Gateway Hills Park. That's out by our office. There's a lot of people that drink out there already, and it's kind of like a community park anyways. We probably just need to change that designation. It would be in line with the other community parks. So from a bicycle standpoint, you know, we had conversation again with just with the research that we had done with you know, responses regarding biking. We're saying not making an ordinance, but make it a park rule that 10 miles per hour on park trails for bicycles. And again, you know, there's going to be people that are going to want 15. They're going to want people that want 10. There are going to be people want 20. There's going to be, just like the individual at the public input session doesn't want any bikes on any trails, just wants it for walking only. So again, we'll get that wide range, but what we're thinking, and again, with it, if we say 10, you know, people, are they going to go 12? Are they going to go 13? Yeah, they are. But if you say 15, then they'll go 17 and 18 and 20 and things. So again, we're really looking to, you know, what they're doing up in Minneapolis with, you know, 10 miles an hour. And then again, if there's nobody around, if people go faster, not a big deal. So thoughts on that?
It's a good middle ground.
Yeah.
Enforcement, you know, enforcement's always the rub. But
Right. And we will be doing, you know, especially up at Ada Hayden, we'll be doing signage and things of that sort that will help with that. Some of, you know, with the foraging, we've already talked about that, the dogs, that's just bringing that over. We actually are adding in, you know, the feeding of deer. So people know that it's not allowed. You know, and then with firearms, actually having a park rule, but here we're saying firearms are not allowed in parks, greenways, and recreational facilities. So again, with how this works, we had a situation several years ago or a couple years ago where somebody brought a gun into the community center. We don't have a rule, you know, for that. It's allowed by the state for somebody to carry, but now we would be able to say, hey, sir, guns are not allowed in this facility. They say, hey, I have a right to do this. They don't take it out. Now we can call police and they can come and say, hey, you know, it's a rule. They told you to take it out. Now you need to take it out. So that's where the park rules and where, you know, police can help us in some of those. Any thoughts on that? Good? Yeah. Again, some of these, just with some cleanup. Some of them are just with that, you know, adding the hunting. So really, you know, the skating, with that one, we added, it was skating, skateboarding. We're saying bike riding, scooters, not allowed on hard surface courts, i.e. tennis, pickleball, basketball, mini pitch. So that's a change. and then again, swimming, making an ordinance and so on. So again, I guess, question would be is, did we miss anything?
I was very impressed. It seems to cover what we talked about.
Do you already have a rule for Homewood for people not walking while playing hours are happening?
We do.
Mhm.
Because I did see some people wandering out and the golfers were yelling at them, so I didn't see the sign. And I know signage does, personally, no, it doesn't do any good, but
Yeah, we actually just put a new sign up right by hole number 1, because we were having issues with that. But that is part of our rules at Homewood.
for Homewood.
Yep.
Okay.
Now, when Homewood is closed in the fall, there are people I see that walk across there and get to the Miracle Playground and they walk the paths. and
Not a
that's
problem.
okay.
Mhm.
Yep.
So where is the hunting in Ines Grove then?
And it's Grove.
It's on the northeast side up by it's north of Shagbark Shelter. It's a really
Right
small
behind it.
area.
So that's long away from there.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
well, it's almost like in connection with Homewood as well, because people will hunt northeast of the clubhouse in the wooded area up there, all the way up to Ines Grove as well.
How about the paths
Well,
that
they
go along
probably-
the river?
Hole number 4 would,
Well,
they wouldn't be hunting through there, but
In those woods. So the trails that go behind, where you can look up. Where
So there's no path.
there's where the path is.
Yep.
Obviously, the rules follow to that too.
correct.
and I don't even know how many people hunt Ines Grove.
I don't know. I've never heard
Yeah.
of. I haven't heard of anybody hunt Ines Grove. Multiple people hunt Homewood or have for
Yeah.
years.
Yeah.
Yep.
Well, there's deer there.
I wonder if for skating, skateboarding, biking, scooters, if on hard surface, if there should be an exception for the kind of the ADA component. Because I know in our surveys, folks were confused as to scooters versus mobility devices. And I wonder if that could be a question mark on that rule.
We could take a look at that. Yep.
Verbiage.
Yep. All right, anything else? No?
No.
All right.
All right, we're moving on.
Good.
Close and park policy update. Moving on to project updates.
Yeah, so with with Fitch, thought I'd just go through a few pictures with you real quick so you can kind of see, get an idea of what it's looking like and what it's supposed to look like and what it's currently looking like. So again, that's just a timeline. We're still looking at January 26th for substantial completion, opening in March of 2026. So again, that's what it will look like from the south side, kind of from the southeast. Just as a reminder, this is what it looked like before we started, before we even broke ground. And this is what it's looking like now. This is looking northwest, the building, the parking in the back. Pretty much all the concrete is poured in the back. They do have a sidewalk as well. Those areas where there is no concrete, that's where we have underground stormwater retention. And there will be permeable pavers that get put into those areas. So until everybody's out of that area, that's probably going to be one of the last things that they wind up doing. Do you have the signage up front, or this is off of the parking lot? Fitch Family Indoor Aquatic Center is on there. Again, that's just the floor plan. So the check-in area, you can see in the bottom what it's going to look like. You can kind of see what it's starting to look like, and even this has changed. I took these pictures last Friday because they went to the Board of Supervisors on Tuesday, and that picture, if I took it today, looks completely different. A lot of drywall up, the donor wall, that will be where that's going, and looking back out towards the area, the entry. This is the admin suite, which is just right behind the control desk. You can see also that the doorway that leads to the aquatics manager's office, which will be right off the pool deck. Changing room corridor, you can see what that's. You got all the drywall up, and it's looking good. The rec pool, you can see this is pretty much the same angle. Looking back at that. So they do have some of the rec pool is the last one that they're pouring, so they do have some of that concrete in now, and it's starting to look good. This is the lap pool. Looking back kind of towards the same angle as what you have on the left. So that's all poured. In fact, they did this week pour some of the decking kind of around the northeast end of it. They'll be pouring some of the decking along the whole east edge as well. So this is the wellness pool. That is pretty well done. The decking has to be done, and I think they have a little bit with the ramp that needs to be done as well. This, you can really see the multi-purpose room taking shape with those rounded corners and so on. And then, looking at the inside of that space as well. So just wanted to kind of, rather than go through a lot of just words, to show you a few pictures, and we'll continue to do that. Do have, would you guys be in favor of either the last Thursday in October or the first Thursday in November for a tour? And we'll probably, and if you want me to send that out in an email, I can shoot out an email and you can give me responses, because what we'll do is city council will be invited, and then actually I mentioned it to the board of supervisors, and they had interest in coming as well. So, all right. Okay, next one.
Steve Shaker.
Yeah, so with that, we've been going back and forth. We mentioned last time plantings have been done. Still working through a couple of items there. They're ready. The contractor has agreed with what we want corrected on the spray pad. We're just waiting for the order to drain that needs to be installed. So once they have that, they'll go in and get all of those things cleaned up. We're still working with them on a final agreement for the surface. I believe, if it didn't happen today, maybe happen tomorrow. We'll be sending to the contractor another draft with our comments for that agreement. And we're getting closer. There's fewer things that we need to work out as we keep going back and forth, but potentially the corrections could be made on the ice ribbon potentially in October. That's if we can agree. There are still a couple of critical areas that we need to agree on. But if we can agree on those, that could happen in October.
The trail replacement.
Josh?
Caliber Concrete is still working through. They just completed all the rolling and the proof rolling, so that's all been approved. They were going to start pouring this week due to the weather conditions. They didn't mobilize a crew, but they told me yesterday that they're going to start pouring paving next Monday. Get the crew up there and start paving. Their plan is to be able to pour, weather conditions obviously dependent, but 800 to 1,000 linear feet of paving per day. So we're hopefully we get some good weather and they can get that done. So just moving towards that. So.
And I'm sure we should remind everyone, please stay out of it.
Yeah, they told me that it's about $1,000 per concrete panel to get replaced if it's if it's damaged or if there's tracks in it or something like that. So, that's taxpayer dollars at work. So please help us and just be respectful of that and respect the gates. We've had individuals that have cut the fencing and just will walk through whatever and disregard the contractors. It is a construction zone. They have the right to be there. You don't, or individuals don't right now. So we just ask the people to be respectful of those signage and restrictions there.
Splash pad.
Yeah. So Keith and I and the contractors and the designer have a meeting on Monday afternoon to talk about the progress. The TK Concrete, who is the prime contractor for the project, is waiting on a subcontractor to do all the underground utilities. The plan was to start in September. They've pushed that back to October. Going forward for this fall, the plan is to have all the underground utilities installed this fall, the rough grading completed, and also the foundation and concrete pad for the mechanical building. Then CRS, Commercial Recreation Specialists, who will be providing the equipment and doing the install of all the detail stuff, the water lines and the electrical equipment will be installed yet next spring, and then TK will come back and do all the paving and complete it. So we're optimistic that they get that done this fall, but we're really more concerned that they have to hit that June 1 date for next year. So we're going to stay on them and emphasize that this has to be completed by June 1st of 2026. So.
And lastly, the park maintenance.
Yeah,
facility.
the parks maintenance, the contractor for the parks maintenance facility is on site. They're mobilized. Underground utilities are going in as we speak. The plan is to finish up the water line and the utilities and start grading for the parks maintenance facility next week. And then also they're going to start demo on the inside of the main park shop building for those renovations starting next week as well. I want to tell the public that the bulk water station will be going out of commission sometime next week. There's going to be grading and contractors are in there. It's going to be really challenging for users of that bulk water station to get in there, and it's could potentially create some safety issues. So we'll be sending out some more communication in regards to that. And then also telling people where else they can get water for the time being.
Along those same lines, will the Cemetery Hill sledding be effective this winter?
That's a good question. The only parking that will be available will be after hours in the main park shop building. The other areas will be off limits to the contractor or because of the construction. The plan is the project will be done sometime in January. So hopefully maybe the later part of the season, a portion of that area will be closed, but all access from the cemetery down to the park shop is closed as we speak. So they won't even be able to have to access it off 13th Street. So.
Thank you. Okay, let's move on to monthly report.
Yeah, so the last time we were here, between I guess then and now, Permanent Aquatic Center is closed for the season. You'll see in the monthly report, the monthly report, we did see an uptick in total season attendance from last year. We had 86,900 people utilize that facility this season. So now we are shifting into all of our fall programs. We will be conducting swim lessons at Iowa State, utilizing State Pool this fall. So swim lessons will still be available. We're also just shifting into fall with all of our other programs. Auditorium will be starting up our fall concert series in October. So we encourage people to come down to City Auditorium and check out a show. And also Homewood Golf Course, they're on the tail end of their season as well, with anticipating closing end of October, but with weather evaluations, we'll see if that extends into November as we've been able to in the past couple of years.
Parks maintenance staff is starting to wrap up a few things. Obviously, we finished the Brookside Park playground project. We did a really extensive concrete renovation on the sidewalks that goes back to that back parking lot. So we've been tied up doing a lot of that, but Some of our other staff have been out reseeding some areas. We reseeded the car park area or watering it. So that is growing in fairly well. So we're excited about that, getting that look nice again. And then also from an aquatic center, winterization is in progress and hopefully finish that up in early October. So.
And I would just add with Brookside 100th birthday anniversary celebration on Saturday was a success. We estimated maybe about 300 people came throughout the day. We had cupcakes, we had ice cream, we had an electric vehicle show. There were different games, different activities, and so on. Had a ribbon cutting, check presentation. So just a number of things. Jeff was there. Deborah saw. So thank you for coming. But it was a great event. A lot of positive feedback from the public, and it was good. Any questions?
Yeah, Commissioner, are we moving to Commissioner River comments?
You can.
Can we? Anything else for the good of the order from the commission? Hearing none. Next meeting, October 16th, 2025, 4 p.m. It'll be right here. And with nothing else, I would take a motion for adjournment.
I make a motion to adjourn.
Meeting's done.